Hi guys, Rhea here. Today we're going to look at this long question that combines area and volume and trigonometry and also has some probability towards the end. So let's get straight into the question. So in this question we're looking at windscreen wipers. So the line AB is windscreen slash and it covers the region, the shaded region in the diagram, and it's enclosed in the rectangle PQRS, which has a width of 180 and a height of 100. So in the first part of the question they want you to show that the distance OB is equal to 120 centimeters. So the distance OB is going to be this distance here, and looking at the diagram we can see that that distance is going to be the exact same as the distance ON. So that's the first thing that I'm going to write down. The distance OB is equal to the distance ON. So now we can go ahead and find out what the distance ON is. So looking at this here, you can see the distance from N to M is going to be the height of the rectangle, which is 100, and then the distance from M to O here is going to be this extended distance, which is 20. So therefore, the distance ON is equal to 100 plus 20, which is equal to 120 centimeters, which is what we wanted to prove. So that's your answer to the first part of the question. And to get that answer, you get a total of 5 marks. In the next part of the question, they want you to show that the angle BOT is 41.4 degrees. So here's our triangle BOT, and they basically want us to show that this angle here is 41.4 degrees. So we can label some of the sides of our triangle. So we've shown in the previous part of the question that the length of the side OB is going to be 120. We know that the entire width of the rectangle is 180. So this distance here is going to be half of that. So that's going to be 90. So here's just a rough sketch of our triangle. So now we can use trigonometry to prove that theta is equal to 41.4 degrees. So I'm going to use cos theta is going to be equal to our adjacent all over our hypotenuse. So that's going to be 90 all over 120. So we don't want cos theta, we just want theta on its own. So we're going to have to get the inverse of cos. So theta is going to be equal to cos inverse of 90 all over 120. And now you just need to put that into your calculator. And that should give you an answer of 41.4 to 1 decimal place. So it's the same as the answer at the start of the question. So to prove that, you get a total of 10 marks. In part III, they want you to work out the area of AB, B dash, A dash, and they want you to remember that this area is the sector OB, B dash minus OA, A dash. So looking at this, you can see here that we're going to have to find the area of two sectors. So to do that, we need to use a formula from page 9 of the Formula and Tables book. So here's page 9, and we're going to be using this formula here to find the area of a sector. So looking at our formula here, the first thing we need to do is find out what theta is, because theta is going to be the same for both sectors. So looking at our diagram here, you can see if we draw a line here, we have a right angle. We know from the previous part of the question that this angle here is 41.4. So in order to find theta for this part of the question, to find this angle here, that's going to be 90, which is our right angle, minus 41.4. So that only gives us half of our angle theta, so we're going to have to multiply that by 2. So theta is going to be equal to 90 degrees minus 41.4 degrees. We're going to have to multiply that by 2. So I'm just going to go ahead and put that into the calculator. So that'll give me an answer of 97.2 degrees. So now the next thing we need to find is 2 radius. We know that the radius of OBB dash is 120. We found that from the previous parts of the questions, but now we need to find the radius of OAA dash. So to find the radius of OA dash A, you can see that the radius is going to be this length here. So when we draw a line down, this is going to be a right angle triangle. And so we're looking for this here. We know this angle from the previous part of the question to be 41.4. And then we also know the length of this side, you can see, is going to be 20. So now we can use trigonometry to find out the length of the radius. So we're going to be using sine for this part of the question. So this is going to be sine 41.4 is equal to 20 all over the side that we labelled x, which is our radius. So now I'm going to take my x across, it's going to get multiplied. So it's going to be x sine 41.4 is equal to 20. So now we don't want x sine 41.4, we just want x on its own. So our sine 41.4 is going to come across, it'll get divided. So x will be equal to 20 all over sine 41.4, and just need to put that into the calculator. So just the 2 decimal places, that'll give us an answer of 30.24. So now we have all of our values, we can go ahead and sub into our formula. So the area AB, B dash A is going to be the area of OB, B dash, which is going to be pi, or is our radius, which is going to be 120, to be squared by theta all over 360. So we find theta to be 97.2 all over 360, minus our area OAA dash. So that's going to be pi. We find our radius to be 30.24 to be squared all over theta all over 360. So again, that'll be 97.2 all over 360. So now we just need to put that into the calculator. So putting that into the calculator and correcting to the nearest centimetre squared, that's going to be 11,439. So that's your answer to this part of the question, and to get that answer you get a total of 10 marks. In the next part of the question, they tell you that the angle E-OE is equal to 105 degrees. So this angle here is equal to 105 degrees. So by setting the distance OE equal to x, they want you to use the triangle OEE dash and the cosine rule to find the value of the distance OE. So looking at this is our triangle. We know that the length of this side here is going to be the width of the rectangle, which is 180. They told us to set the distance OE to x. So this side here, OE dash, will also be x. And then we also know that this angle here is equal to 105. So they want us to use the cosine rule, which is found on page 16 of the Formula and Tables book. So here's page 16, and we're going to be using this formula here, which is the cosine rule. So now that we have our formula, all we need to do is label and then sub in. So first of all, we have our angle, which is 105 degrees, which I'm going to label A. The side opposite that will be small a, and then we have our B and our C. So then subbing them into our formula, we're going to have 180 to be squared is equal to B squared, which is x squared, plus C squared, which is another x squared, minus 2 by B by C, which is going to be x by x, cos A, which is cos 105. So tidying this up then, we'll be left with 180 squared is equal to x squared plus x squared is 2x squared minus 2x squared by cos 105. So the next thing we can do here is we can factor out an x squared from the right hand side. So that's going to be 180 squared is equal to x squared 2 minus 2 cos 105. So now I just want x squared on its own. So this part here is getting multiplied on the right hand side. When I take it across, it's going to get divided. So when I take that across, we'll be left with 180 squared all over 2 minus 2 cos 105 is equal to x squared. So now we want to get rid of our power over our x. So to do that, I'm going to square root both sides. So square rooting both sides will leave me with just 180 because our square root sign cancels out with our squared all over the square root of 2 minus 2 cos 105 is equal to x. So putting that all into the calculator, we get a value for x to 1 decimal place. And when we put that into the calculator to 1 decimal place, that'll be 113.4 centimetres. So to get that answer, you get a total of 10 marks. So in part C of the question, they tell you that Maddie is driving home. On the way, she passes 5 traffic lights. So each traffic light is either red, green or orange. And one day she notes the pattern made by the colour of each traffic light when she arrives at it. For example, the pattern could be red, red, orange, green, red. And they want you to find out in part I of the question, how many different patterns could the 5 traffic lights make? So because we have 5 traffic lights, we're going to have 5 boxes. So looking at this, for when she comes to the first traffic lights or the first box, she will have 3 options. It'll either be red, green or orange. So this is going to be 3. And because we have no conditions in part I, the rest of the options are still going to be 3. So each of our boxes is going to be filled with 3, and we multiply this together. So this is going to be 3 multiplied by itself 5 times, which is equal to 3 to the power of 5. which is going to be equal to 243. So that's your answer to the first part, and that'll give you a total of 5 marks. In the next part of the question, we do have a condition. How many different patterns could the 5 traffic lights make if the first light is red and the 5th light is not red? So the first thing that we have to do is deal with the conditions first. So if the first light is red, then we only have one option or one outcome for the first light, and the 5th light is not red, so that means it could be green or orange. So there's only 2 possibilities there. So the rest are unaffected, so the rest are just going to be 3. Because they can be either red, orange or green. So now we just have to multiply them together. So that's going to be 1 by 3 by 3 by 3 by 2. So that'll give us an answer of 54. And then finally, in the last part of the question, how many different patterns could the 5 traffic lights make if no 2 consecutive lights are the same colour? So looking at our first traffic lights, we're not following any lights, so we have 3 possibilities for the first one. So take for example, the first traffic light was red. That means it can't be red the second time round, it can only be green or orange. So there's only 2 possibilities there. Take for example, the second traffic light was green. That means that the third one can only be orange or red. So it's going to be 2 there, and that will continue for the rest of them. So that's going to be 3 multiplied by 2 by 2 by 2 by 2. So that's going to equal to 48. So to get parts I and I completely correct, you get a total of 10 marks. So that concludes the question, guys. Hopefully it's all a bit easier now, and thanks very much for watching.